Been a fun day. Hilarious things happening on while Jesse gets us up on that. Big news of the day. The Trump press conference, COVID-19, 24/7, 365. We'll cover it all. We'll have Cliff on. Bottom of the hour, we'll have Eddie George up on the top of the show. Talking about all the fun that's been going on today on the good old coronavirus and anything else we might come up with. Been a rockin' and rollin' fun day on a Taco Tuesday. If you can find a taco joint that's open, and I'm sure there's a few. They're making it complicated as heck to just get tacos any day, or just about anything else they're working on. But lots of news coming on. We had the first death in Moreno Valley of coronavirus, the 9th case in Riverside County. Coming up, we'll be talking about that and more fun stuff that comes up. Eddie George will be on in a few minutes. We'll have Cliff Cummings at the bottom of the hour rolling into that. But a few things to get to on the coronavirus. Gavin Newsom, update on that. Gavin Newsom said there's 150 deaths in California over that. This whole thing, and Trump keeps repeating it of all that and all that. If we would have went unrestrained, we'd had 1.5 to 2 million deaths, or that was a projection. Well, yeah, if we did nothing and yada, yada, yada. As Fauci, which I think I'm getting his name finally right, said yesterday, I've never seen anywhere these where the estimates everywhere, if I remember correctly, anywhere came close to what the prediction models are. That prediction model is the worst case scenario if everything goes haywire. And in my view, they were taking 747s, like the conspiracy theories, like the contrails and stuff you see from the planes that don't go away, and they say, oh, they're gassing us and all that stuff. If they were taking coronavirus and just spreading it across the skies and make everybody die. But be that as it may, projection models are going down to 100, 200,000 on the deal. They're saying California is going to be the next wave of that, which I do that. I think there's over 1,000 deaths in New York. We had the deal of the one hospital in Brooklyn that looks almost like a ghost town, when they're supposed to be all overrun on this stuff. Well, how does this all work? Well, maybe they got lack of resources or planning of stuff like that. Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, said his brother, which I think does a show on CNN, has a coronavirus on that, and that was part of his deal. But he still keeps saying the death rate's going down. It's not doubling, not going down, but not doubling. It's taking longer to double. It was 2 days a week ago, down to 5 days it was doubling, down to 6, yada, yada, yada. So it looks like the trend line of the death line is going up. Now, Fauci said something interesting. He said, well, we might get a lull in this, and then it's going to climb back up in New York. We don't know, da-da-da-da. Well, his bell curve, or his curve, or his flattening of the curve, if you're on the upstroke of it, you're going to be increasing that exponential rate, as they said, until you get to the flattening of the downhill side, which it appears to be doing on that. I don't know. Still, we shall see if the revised estimates of 100,000 or to 200,000 that they're coming up with now would be correct. Now, if you take the Ferguson prediction, which most of this is based on, he claimed 2.2 million could die in the U.S. and 500,000 in the U.K. Then a couple of days ago, you revised the UK number down to 20,000. Well, that's a factor of 25. Like we pointed out yesterday, you divide 2.2 million divide it by 25, you get about 87, 88, and 90, somewhere in there. I'm doing the math in my head, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty correct, of that 1,000, which is even below the 100 to 2,000 that was done like that today. When you have it ready, blow up that chart I just sent you. This was a chart that Dr. Deborah Birx had at the Trump press conference on that. This is a cumulative cases going on in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Washington, California. So you see the top line that's going way up is New York. The second line that's going up is New Jersey. Then you have Seattle, Connecticut, and then California is on that real flat line going down in the bottom. So you see in the densest, some of our densest populations, New York and New Jersey, or the metro New York City area where this thing is going, you're seeing the big upslope of what's going on in that. Now, pray tell, this broke out, or the big concern came when Washington had the case where the 24 died in the nursing home, which, from the report I heard, it is also a hospice center, and all the ones that died were in the hospice care of the nursing home on that. So they were, when you're in the hospice care, you're almost ready to go down the hill anyway. But look at that. Look at the curve on Washington and how flat it is of that. Even Connecticut is starting to peel up that. What I want to get to, and we'll talk a little bit on it later. Look at, and I talked about it a little bit because Cuomo mentioned it yesterday about the density of the population. And look at where this thing is exploding. Notwithstanding the China, but there's a big Asian China population out here, and they're out in L.A. So, but they're saying ground zero for New York, but Cuomo mentioned the density problem of that, and I expanded on that and said that's why Roy lives on acres, measures his property, and probably always will if I have the ability to live on acres, not square feet or inches or in cubicles, because this stuff, anything like this, can spread in a densely populated area. So that's one reason why you should, or in my opinion, it is good to guard against them trying, and especially what they're trying to do in California now, like they call the stack and pack apartments, trying to increase density, trying to get us into subways and mass transit and everything, where you see what happens when you create this society and how it happens and how it can go bad on you when you do that. I'm saying the metro New York, New Jersey area is a prime example of why you don't want to, why the vast majority of the people do not want to see that come to your town or city. But we'll come on to that later at the bottom of the hour and do that. But I want to bring on that crazy guy with a lazy eye. He runs the big famous web page, Facebook page, Hemet Eye News, covers all the news of Hemet and beyond on that. Eddie George, welcome back to the show.
What up, Big Roy? How are you doing, bro?
The sky's still up, but the way people keep talking, I'm wondering if the sky's going to start falling on us.
It actually is over here. I'm actually sitting in the car looking up in the air and it's starting to fall over here in Hemet,
Maybe
we still got a few eye hooks still holding up, so.
You're going to make me choke on that. I mean, yeah, well, we might as well start the latest conspiracy. Yeah, COVID-19 was meant so the sky would start falling, and then where you could go on from there.
Right. It's more like people's brain cells are frying. That's what it is. Common sense again.
I'll tentatively agree with that. Two things about where we're broadcasting from in Moreno Valley. We had the first death reported yesterday in Riverside County, and I think they had the first actual case of tested of coronavirus in Hemet. What do you know?
Well, we actually now, Riverside County just updated their thing at 3:30, and we're now up to 5 cases now in Hemet. It was 4 yesterday. Now we just got one more confirmed today, and we still only have one still confirmed in San Jacinto.
So it seems like it, and again, like they said, and like any of these things, it starts slowly in doing that, but. And I did a little bit, and I don't know if you heard it before you got on, but where it's really breaking out and where this thing does, and it was struck me by what Dr. Deborah Burke said, and we did that. But where they were, everybody was in the panic when the 24 died in the nursing slash hospice hospital that I heard up there, and that. But if you notice, the curve in Washington areas is just pretty flat, where it's going up at an exponential rate on that. What do you think of my theory that I brought out yesterday, and mentioned by Governor of New York Andrew Cuomo at the press conference yesterday, of the dangers of why this stuff really spreads in a densely populated society, where you're like in New York, Metro, New Jersey area, where you're all crammed in, you're riding the subways together, you're in apartments right next to each other, breathing the same air, walking the same crowded streets, yada, yada, yada.
Touching everything everybody else
does. Yes. And what I said last night is, well, how do you apply that model that they're trying to do? And Deborah Burke said this today, that, we're basing most of our numbers off of what's happening in New York and New Jersey metro area right now. Well, how do you apply that to Waterloo, Iowa, which is like 180 degrees opposite of that?
Right. That's a good question. I mean, I'm still amazed on how it's just different ways people are, handle the situation, Roy. It's like, if they wouldn't do the social media group and everything that everybody is doing and, stay at home, I feel that it wouldn't spread as quick like that in these metro areas versus these, small city areas.
Which is kind of the theory I had, and I've had about this all the time. Yeah, there was a reason to be concerned, and as Dr. Burks pointed out, in the 15 metro areas where we have very densely populations, this is, man, they should have been putting the clamps down on this in New York when they found out about this in December and January. And everybody from Cuomo to Mayor of New York de Blasio and stuff were saying, no, go out to the Chinese New Year parade. Nothing's going on. Even Nancy Pelosi was saying, be happy, be merry, nothing's done. And this was back there. If they would have clamped down when they saw the outbreak, where it was going to spread, where it had the potential, let me put it this way, from the information I have, to spread like crazy, if they would have clamped it down there, in that area, and started putting the measures in New York City and around there, and then say, okay,
probably stopped a lot.
Yes, we wouldn't be dealing with what we are doing now.
Yeah, you're not worried about the people coming from the other countries right now. You worried about people coming from New York.
Yes.
Because I've seen the maps out there in New York, and it's just like the whole daggum state is covered in it.
Yes, it is, and what gets me is the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, was telling Trump, and all these guys were telling him, oh, no, everything's okay, yada, yada, yada. And when it started breaking out and they said, we may have a problem here, what was the first thing he did? He cut off travel to China, where we knew ground zero of this was coming, and we had figured out that's how it got transferred from China to New York, or where it started. And he got called a racist, this, and every dirty name in the book, trying to do that, when that, even at that particular point, notwithstanding what it could have, should have been done,
so
that was absolutely the right move to do.
Because, they're saying Trump's racist because why? He's telling the truth.
Yes.
Well, I guess if that's the case, I'm racist then, but I'm not. I'm anti-stupid.
There you go. Once he got the right information on this, and I really wish, they're trying to skirt around it, but I really wish they would start talking straight up like this. Hey, these guys frickin' blew it over here of this, and this is why we got the problem, and this is where we really need to concentrate on that. I think, as we've talked about even with our local officials and stuff and working with them, I think if they would come out more straighter and just tell us honestly and point out who exactly screwed up this deal in the beginning, and this is how we're not going to do it again, instead of trying to paper over and 2.2 million could have died and this and 100,000 or 200. That just to me feeds in the fear factor instead of where if they would be honest saying these people screwed up, we're going to fix it in these areas or put the clamps on it here, and anywhere there's a potential of this, we're going to really concentrate on that. And then on the meantime, let's figure out what the best policy is for everywhere else. And then I think at that point we would all be much. I think that would alleviate a lot of people's fears. What do you think?
I agree with you. I really do, Roy. But can we do it? You know, that's the question. It's easier said than done. People are going to stay in that panic state, but yet they're so panicked that they're going to get it, but yet they don't follow the rules.
Yeah. And I mean,
Go figure.
There is a case to be made, and but like I say, if you're living out in, to say, even in California, I mean, we have vast areas that, this thing, like take Desert Center. I mean, that's an extreme example of it. But there's areas where this thing would not, and there's even, and Cuomo, 2 days ago, he said, maybe it wasn't the best policy to have it locked down everywhere in our state. In New York's the same way. There's vast areas where there's, the fruited plains, this and that, where you're doing that. And then you have New York City, which has, 8 million people crammed into 5 square miles or something, right, which is a totally different, you got the extremes, you got the biggest extremes in New York State of any state in the United States. Now, to apply one model that's happening in New York City to the whole state, which I think he was implying was probably not a good idea, but now we're extrapolating, and that's what made me concerned when Dr. Burke said, well, we're basing our models what's happening in New Jersey and in New York City. Well, that's not going to happen in 98.7% of the rest of America.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, the numbers it won't be the same. And I'm just lost for words on a lot of this stuff, Roy. It's just, I don't know what to say, but go home and drink a Corona.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's about all you can do with with a lot of what they're doing. And again, if you've ever done a statistical analysis and stuff like that, everybody, well, how many deaths do you want to accept? And Trump said the right thing. Well, no, we don't want to accept any. But you got to look at the long-term damage or the long-term effects, maybe not say damage, but you got to look at the long-term effects of that. Just say this. Okay, say you have a choice to make, we'll take 1,000 deaths now, but we'll prevent 100,000 2, 5, 10 years later. Which choice do you make? Right. So, looking at this stuff of that, and we've had Dr. Kelly Victory on, kind of reiterating the same thing, and I see these little pockets of stuff, and I've heard, some people saying, look at the long-term effects of it, not just what's right in front of you. Yeah, if it's you or your loved one that's dying of this disease, man, that's a tragedy. Nobody's gonna discount or make it any better for you personally on that. But when you're president of the United States or governor of California or New York or whatever state are making the decisions of that, you got to look at the whole enchilada, as I say, or the whole pie of this thing, and you've got to not only look at the immediate needs, but the long-term needs, like the immediate needs. Yeah, New York's in problem. Let's get them all the help they need. Hospitals, ship with hospitals, supplies, ventilators, yada, yada, yada. Get them over there fast, fix that, put that out. But then in these other decisions that may have even greater ramifications long-term, you got to take that into consideration, too, when you're making these counts. And that's why I say pumping the fear factor, running these big numbers, which would have the probability of that happening was probably less than nil, just doesn't sit right with me.
And Roy, you always go with that gut feeling, and I always trust your gut feeling, just like I have a gut feeling on this. Do you really think that this was an accidental virus, or was this a planned thing for an economy fail?
I've said it and I've talked about it. We put the tinfoil hats on a little bit yesterday about the video and I don't know if you saw it, but Todd Starnes, he's a anchor at Fox News, or was an anchor up to a year ago, but now he has a syndicated radio show, and he's got a pretty big following. He put out a video Saturday afternoon of a hospital in Brooklyn.
Is this Alex Jones?
Huh?
What was the guy's name? Alex Jones?
No, Todd Starnes.
Okay.
No, he's not. He's not a. He was a mainstream Fox News anchorman. He was not in the in the far off category.
Right.
Notwithstanding, people say Fox News is right wing, but I mean, from the scale, he's not over there on the Alex Jones end.
Right.
Of that. So he goes down to the hospital, films it in Brooklyn. They have a line for. They have a area for a line set up or deal. The partition set up for coronavirus people to get tested. Not one person standing in it. The hospital does not look overwhelmed. There's nothing going on. Yet we're hearing that. So I mean, like I say, I try to stay off of that stuff, or maybe not try to think of it. But I mean, it just keeps. I have just had a notorious. I did it. You talk about gut feeling. The day
Right.
when they diverted that flight coming in on Kalitta Airlines from Wuhan, China, that was set to go to Ontario, and they diverted it to March Air Force Base. I got a bad feeling about this whole thing. I said something is not right about this for the reasons they were doing that, because I've been out there. I mean, I grew up in this area. I know that place. Like people were saying, oh, there's a hospital there. No, it isn't. That was tore down 20 years ago. They have no
Right.
facilities out there that I am aware of to do this. And then the whistleblower afterwards says they were totally unprepared for this. Nobody practically knew what they were doing. People were just wandering around out in the da-da-da-da. Now, we'll see if that's true. But like I said, Ontario was prepared for this, had all the equipment, yada, yada, yada. They ship them over to March Air Force Base, where what? They can have more control or keep this under wraps, more of that. I don't know.
I feel you.
I just from that, when I heard that, and I mean, I was that night, I just happened to be on the pewter looking at that, and I'm hearing that from coming on. Man, I just got a bad feeling about this whole thing. And I wake up every day, and that bad feeling, that little voice in the back of my head just doesn't keep going away, saying there's just something not right about this whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Roy. I want to send you some stuff that I can't post on public yet, but
Right.
When you see this, your gut feeling will be right, and you'll be amazed, like, oh my goodness, really.
Because I mean, I get, as you do and I do and people in the media, you get off the record reports, or you got sources or this all over the place. So I'm checking, I'm just not basing this on taking one thing. I mean, I'm getting thousands of pieces of information of that. So I'm asking, if you're in this industry, if you're in the hospital industry, if you're a healthcare practitioner, what are you seeing on the ground right now? And
That's right.
and a lot of the places I'm getting the report backs are nowhere near this panic. Everything's going. We're in crisis of stuff like that. So again, it's just not I can't pinpoint it or have a credible evidence of that, of what's going on. But again, we played that video of 2018 out of South Korea that predicted, or they had a Netflix show on that about coronavirus in 2018. That's going to be a man-made comeback. The coincidence of this stuff is just weird.
Yep. Well, when you see this information I'm going to give you, Roy, you'll see what you'll understand. And basically, what you're saying, man-made. I think this was done, for special attention, or not shall I say attention, but a special reason to do one main thing. And when you read this document, I'm not going to say no more to you. I just want to see if you notice the same thing that my investigator found out.
Right. No, I mean, I at this point, I'm not necessarily discounting anything. I mean, those. When it's first broke, and when it first broke out in China, or it was in China, and then it started breaking out, Spain, Italy, and anywhere, and the reports came out of this was a man-made deal, or something got away from him in a lab or something, and not everybody, but most people were poo-poo-pooing that, da-da-da. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it isn't true, but I'm not throwing it 100% off the table either.
That's right. You're just going to put it on that back burner and add a little bit more evidence to it.
Yep, and I don't think we'll probably, if we ever know, it'll take us a long time to figure that stuff out. And I really hope that isn't the case on this thing. But again, like I say, I mean, ever since that flight, when they diverted that flight coming in from Wuhan, China to Ontario to March Air Force Base, which is about 2 miles away from where I'm sitting, I went, there's just something not right about this whole enchilada of doing that. And again, like I say, in the what has it been, 2 months since that happened or whatever it's been,
Right. Yep.
that feeling has just got increasingly more concerning.
Right?
Yes.
I'm going to hook you up with somebody. I'm going to try to get on your next show on Thursday.
Okay.
Let him do some talking on this. See, he's got some information that'll really make you drop your jaw.
In the meantime, I really want to do this, and we did that. We started it last night, and if you got any, hook me up with anybody you know out in Hemet, anybody, businesses you know that are still open, doing for business, especially the restaurants and stuff like that, bar owners that have been really hit hard. I mean, they got a challenging time just trying to keep the doors open, doing this in these times. So, that's my main concern of this is, and all the people that are laid off, not working over this thing, doing this, and the longer, now they're talking end of October. I mean, I keep hearing reports that it's going to go through the summer to June, July, August of this stuff going on. Again,
they never know when they're going to have this stuff over with. It's just going to get worse and worse, Roy.
Yeah, I mean, of what's going on this, I really hope it doesn't. But
right. Well, we're actually starting up a thing. I'm working with some people in the city of both towns, and we're actually creating a Hemet cash mob. And what we're going to do is list all the businesses that are needing help, and then we put them in our schedule, and then each day we feature certain businesses, and everybody goes support that business that day until we hit every business that we can out here. So we're opening up the Hemet Eye news page to let all businesses post their advertisements, what they're doing. We're not even charging them anything for us, pushing them. I mean, we want to help these guys survive, and this is the only way that we can do it is let the public know what they're doing, when they're doing it, how they're doing it, what specials are doing every day. We're inviting all the businesses to welcome to go on our HemetEyeNews.com page and post, their daily specials and what limitations they have. And we've got like El Zarapi and some other restaurants there. If you have a bar attached, you're actually able to do margarita deliveries and stuff like that. But just leave it in the trunk, folks. Don't be drinking and driving.
There you go. You got about 15 seconds to wrap it up.
All right, that's about it, Roy. Just one last question.
Yes.
You got toilet paper?
Yes, I do.
You better guard it with your life. That's about it, folks. Hey, Roy, it's been fun with you, bro. Keep up the good work. This is that crazy guy with the lazy eye bringing you hillbilly news, redneck style, YouTube and on Hemet Eye News.
You got it. We'll see you Thursday.
All right, I'm out of my chair and I'm off your damn air. Love you, Roy.
Oh, we love Eddie. He puts that together with a flair nobody else can. I don't know if you can take two hillbillies on the air at once, but you'll have to put on. We'll pick up the scholarly part of this here in a couple of minutes. We'll have Cliff Cummings on from Toyota San Bernardino give his latest thoughts on for this week on what's going on, what's on that, because it's been a week or so since we talked to him. So I bet you he'll be primed up and ready to go on that, and he's definitely got a lot of connections.
1 minute.
So I'm really curious to hear his take on all of what's going on, what he knows about this whole thing, because like you said with Eddie, I just get a bad feeling about that. I mean, 12,000, 13,000 viewers we've had on IEN Newswire on the Trump, over 600 comments on the Trump press conference on that. I mean, there's so many of them on there that it's just absolutely astounding of
30 seconds.
what's going on this whole coronavirus thing. It's just amazing of what's going on. But we're going to be rolling into KMET, the Mighty Met 1490.
All right, guys, here we go. 10 seconds.
In
Phone
10
apps.
seconds.
Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday on the Mighty Met 1490 KMET. On that, when we roll in IE Newswire Daily, where you get all the news and views, not only of the Inland Empire, but all across the world. And news there is. Like we reported earlier, we had Eddie George on the Hemet Eye News on that. First cases breaking out of coronavirus in Hemet, in Moreno Valley. There was actually one death that was announced the other day, so that brings the death total in Riverside County to 9. 150 in the state of California. We went through some of the charts, the one chart that was going up at the exponential or of the stuff, and we talked about the density of the population. But where this stuff is really going is in the New York City, New Jersey metro area where the population is dense. Even in Washington, where the initial outbreak of the 24 dying in the nursing/hospice home, the curve is flat, just barely going up in California, things like that. So. And again, they were talking about how the outbreak is going on in there and the density of the population stuff. They went, they had on the news conference for that. But Dr. Deborah Burks had that on and said, something that was concerning to me was they're basing this model on, what's happening in New York City, New Jersey metro area, which in about 5 square miles, there's about 8 million people in the subways and all this stuff. Even their projections now that they were talking about the 2 million deaths or the 150 on that or whatever. It's I don't know. It's I just don't get a good feeling about all that. Like I asked, how do you project the circumstances of Waterloo, Iowa to New York City? I mean, they're completely different atmospheres, completely different. And, even Cuomo said the other day that, this stuff spreads, in a high density area of that, more often. And, you get to that and stuff, and it just, the whole thing is just, and as I talked with Eddie, I had a bad feeling about this. The day that flight, and I was there when they've diverted that flight coming in from Wuhan, China on Connie Kalita's plane. I actually know the guy that owns the plane that flies that, big time drag racer. And they diverted that from Ontario to March. I've just got a bad feeling about this whole thing, and it hasn't gotten any, that voice in the back of my head just says there's something is not right about this. But as I previewed at the top of the show and at the bottom, we got him on the air, the proprietor of Toyota San Bernardino, Subaru San Bernardino, and I-10 Toyota and Indio, and where we're coming from. And as you see on the sign behind me, those of you watching on video, for the Toyota San Bernardino Recording Studios, the owner of all that whole stuff, Cliff Cummings. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. How are you?
Doing as best I can. The news just keeps, over the weekend, we left Friday with Trump, and I want to get your take on it or take it anywhere you want. But what's been concerning me, Trump said, we talked about it. You predicted Trump might open this thing up April 15th. He came out with April 12th on that, which was even better news. And then Sunday he dropped the bombshell of, we're moving this back to April 30th. And, that just seemed to create a whole new round of panic. What the heck's going on? What's your take?
Well, I think there's some depression because, when times are tough, and they're going to be really tough for a lot of people, that they look for a light at the end of the tunnel. Well, it seems like every time you see a light now, it's a train coming at you. I think that they're learning what this disease does. They're learning how quickly it spreads. Look at the Akaipa example right now. You can pull it up. They had that old age home where it turned out to be around 51. Now, one thing that is a little bit of false reporting is a case is one thing. That means you were exposed to it, and you may have, but you may have the coronavirus, but no symptoms, no result, nothing like that. So you've got to look at who's been infected, who's been exposed. There's two different words there. So exposed is one thing, infected is another. So if you've got the infection, okay, you got a problem, you got to do what you got to do. That is an incredibly small amount. Now, will that go up? They keep saying yes. It's inevitable it's going to go up because more people are actually being exposed to it. So you do things like New York, this idiot mayor, I saw where this clown cut the number of subway trains and runs taking people home. Well, what did that do? It just got more people in each train closer together. So it did the exact opposite of what you want to do. So now Cuomo's out there, and where we disagree is that he's getting a lot of press time, and I keep saying he'll probably be the Democrat nominee for president. But what they've done is, and what the governors are doing, in my opinion, wrong, is that they're not, and Trump just reversed field on them and said, look, give local control. Texas took local control. Governors like Cuomo, Newsom, they're taking an entire state and making a one-size-fits-all. Well, that's how the opposing party does that. Whereas I think the best way to do that is to be smart but surgical. So with all the things that are coming forward out of the medical field, and this has been an interesting source of American ingenuity and how fast you can try different treatments, how fast you can make masks, how fast, and the masks fundamentally don't work, but they kind of work, but they don't work, but they do work. Everybody's out there with different opinions. And the 6-foot thing, because somebody might sneeze, that sneeze goes 25 feet, 26 feet. So all of this stuff that's coming at us is almost like it's a made-up deal to get people to be so nervous now they're not working. Now, look, we had an okay month. March was fine. April I'm a little bit worried about, but our expense structure is so low that we're going to be just fine. Our service and parts departments are crazy busy right now. In fact, I'm out looking for space to expand. That's how busy they are. And if you look at the site where the new Toyota store is going, man, they're working their brains out all morning and all afternoon. So that's happening. So I think there's a lot of good news there. I just went out today and I drove several sites in San Bernardino because Toyota called and said, hey, we might need to park some cars. So I found them a spot to park 3,000 cars. It's a driver and a 5-iron from my store. So, they'll be right there. So, and again, it's quite remarkable, the different reactions to this. The guys want to work. Guys and the employee want to work. It seems that everyone I talk to, if somebody's at home, whether it's a housewife or a house husband, doesn't matter, they're the ones who are watching TV, CNN, and they're getting real nervous. The guys who are working, they want to work. And I think everybody that I know is taking extraordinary precautions to make sure their employees don't get sick. And somebody has to tell me, and still nobody can, how the hell can you have 500 people in 500 square feet in a Costco, and that's okay, but you got 400 acres of a golf course with one person an acre, and that's not okay? Somebody has to explain that to me.
I don't know if you were listening to the beginning of my show, but that was exactly.
I couldn't. I was out driving these other things. So
yeah, you're looking for a place to park cars, which is a good thing. I mean, just so people know, when cars come in, I mean, those cars could be coming in from elsewhere, overseas, across the country. Yeah. They don't just stop building cars. They're like 3 or 4 weeks or month or two, and they're coming in. Well, everything's shutting down. Well, yeah, you still got 10,000 Toyotas that are coming into Southern California that and nowhere to put them, or they got you just can't leave them sitting there on the docks. Uh, you got to
Yeah,
find a
we've got a
place for
double
them.
whammy, Roy. What we've got right now is we've got good news on a lot of fronts, okay? So, number one, the port facility in Long Beach for Toyota is undergoing a modernization and expansion and a much more efficient methodology of getting the cars through there faster when they come off the boat. That's one. Number two, most of the manufacturers have shut down. I think Toyota's announced a 30-day shutdown at this point. Well, we know exactly what we're going to get until June, roughly 10th. We know what's going on. All right? So past that, there's going to be a little bit of a lag prior to that, there'll be a little bit of lag. Then around June 10th, we'll be getting absolutely normal production. We're not cutting production, we're delaying production. So that's being pushed back a little bit, and some of that will carry over to January or February of next year, which will show a little bit lower number for this year, right? But that's because they've pushed it back. Toyota San Bernardino right now has got a terrific selection. In fact, I'm out buying cars if I can find them because I'm concerned that as we get through these things with the resilience of American people and the fact that I think people are starting to get stir crazy and I think people are getting, frankly, a little bit pissed off that they can't seem to get a story that's consistent.
Yes.
You got the Surgeon General saying one thing. You got the entire friggin' country of France saying another thing. You got Spain saying a third thing. So you've got all these, and Japan doing something else, and China going back to work. So there's such confusion out there that it makes you sit back and say, well, wait a minute, why the hell is there so much confusion going on here? Let's take the worst case basis and say they're going to be closed until, June. Well, I don't see that. Okay, I hope I'm not a person who hopes, right? I have an expression you may have heard, but I'll clean it up. Hope in one hand and a bag of crap in the other hand are equal. Okay, so you got to deal with reality. And right now, my reality is, what am I going to do with almost 500 people and their families who work for me? That's one thing. Secondly, what are we going to do with the ripple effect of the suppliers who supply us? Thirdly, what are we going to do with this new stimulus package that just came out? And some of that stuff, when you start tearing it down, it's $2 trillion. It may not all get spent. Part of it is delayed payment. So part of that $2 trillion could be me taking $10 million at 4% and using that to build the new Toyota store, if that's possible. My CPA, I was on for an hour with him today. We'll be back on tomorrow. But you see what I'm saying? Is a lot of the stuff that's going to be used is going to be to put people back to work to build stuff that I may not have borrowed money for, may have used cash. But at 4%, I got to make a determination whether I'm better off taking 4% money and using the other money to do something else with, which then puts more people back to work.
Yeah, it's and like you talked about the snapback, but I want to get on the point you made about getting the different stories around, and that's one thing that concerned me. And I was listening to the press conference today. By the way, we aired it live on Newswire Daily. We had just at the end we had 13,000 viewers on it and over 700 comments on that. So I mean, that just shows you the amount of concern people have about this. But I agree with you. And she said, we're basing the models that were coming out here, what's happening in, New York City, New Jersey metro area, which about 8 million people or so live in like 5 square miles. And I asked this question yesterday of Dr. Kelly Victory, and she said the same thing. Applying that model to Waterloo, Iowa, or putting them under the same constraints as when you have, and even as Governor Cuomo said, when you have a densely populated area, this thing can spread. It's a lot different environment. And he even said in his state, this whole quarantine thing might not have been the best policy deal too. So, but again, I hear all these wild numbers coming out and stuff of that, and I just don't see that we need to lock down that, because if she had the chart up, and man, the exponential rate it's going up in New York and New Jersey, but even in Washington, where they had that breakout at the nursing home and everybody got panicked, the curve or the slope is just relatively flat. California, everywhere else, the most of the states are. So I mean, again, I just don't see I think it puts out that kind of panic, concern, gets everybody like that with some of the stuff they're doing, instead of explaining, yeah, in 10 or 15 metro areas, we maybe really need to clamp down on this, but in these areas, you might still be able to circulate. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, first off, I'll give you a great example about that. Our place in Montana, in basically what's in Whitefish, Montana, the nearest case is 13 miles away in one direction and about 60 miles away in another direction and about 90 miles away in another direction. So there isn't even a case in Whitefish, Montana as of this morning when I checked the map. There's a map online you can go to and see what, where, and when.
Right.
Then you turn around and say, okay, Yucaipa's got a real problem because they have 51 cases, I think, an hour ago. Well, the reason they have 51 cases is it's all in one place. It was in that old age home that got it accelerated through.
Right.
Now, a case is a case, and that counts as one. An infection counts as one. But the resultant difficulties for older people with pre-existing conditions is hundreds of times worse than a healthy person. So you got to look at what's going on. If you have 100 people in an old age home, that's terrible, okay? And there's going to be a lot of problems there.
Yes.
100 people who have just been exposed to the virus, they may not get sick at all, okay? May not show any symptoms at all. They've just had exposure. So now the other side of this is we got 80-degree heat coming. All the virologists, whatever, they're saying that at 80 degrees this thing dies. Okay, it may die, but it may come back when it cools off again. But end of the day, there seems to be at least some element of people agreeing on certain things. Number one, okay, that it's a virus. Number two, it is a weak virus that doesn't do well when exposed. All right, so you've seen all the things about how long it lives on glass, how long it lives on metal, how long. So you got to pay attention. It doesn't do well in heat. So here's another question for you. You got all those clowns on a subway in New York with the mayor letting and the governor have that happen. Where they're breathing on top of each other, nobody on a golf course. They close all of the places virtually that have saunas and steam bath. And at 140 degrees for 15 minutes, you basically cleared out all the stuff, according to all the medical stuff I've read. So what is going on? Nobody has got an idea other than most of them, let's panic and close everything down, shut down the economy, which is going to take a very long time to bring back if it goes any longer than April. And as the president said, you know, it might be that the cure is worse than the disease, and I am sure that they're working on that. Now, Mnuchin is a friend of a friend. I've met him. Sekulow is a friend. We're trying to get some more information, but again, it's an evolving circumstance. But I can't see shutting down the entire flipping state of Montana for 32 cases. I just can't see it, and that's just one example. So at the end of the day, there's going to be decisions made by smart governors to start saying, hey, we don't have anything here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But we got to get open again. We got to get America working again. And Trump talked about it last night.
Exactly, and you probably heard me say it. It's one of my sayings. You know, static analysis will kill you 98.7% of the time. And just like the Yucaipa example, well, yeah, there was 51 deaths, all in in a nursing home, like it was in Seattle, which was actually, and the ones that were in there that died, the 24, I think in Seattle, I heard, were in the hospice care. Well, you project that out over all of Seattle and stuff, and you're going to come out with a model that's going to scare the heck out of everybody. But it's not based on complete or accurate or a sound model of what the exact population is. And that's what I keep hearing I keep hearing more and more, and I'm not hearing less and less of like that. And I will say this: Governor Ron DeSantis out of Florida, former Freeman's Caucus member when he was in the Congress, has got the right approach. Yeah, in our heavily populated Miami, whatever, we need to clamp this down. But when you're out in the middle of the Everglades, I don't think we need to be shutting the whole state down because it's just the evidence doesn't show that we should be doing that.
Well, we agree, and I think that they're getting there. The problem is it's taken them so long to get there that the damage that's being done to the economy and the families and the people, you got husbands and wives who say, I got to go to work, and then the other one saying, oh, no, you might get exposed to something. Okay, yeah, maybe, that's true. But then they get into it. So I've got my 4, 5, 9, 13 rule. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. At 4 months, the divorce rate's going to go up. At 5 months, the spousal murder rate will go up. At 9 months, the birth rate will go up.
Yeah.
And at 13 months, the people at 4 months who had the spousal fight made up, and then their birth rate will kick in. So that's my new theory on how this is going to go.
Well, it's probably as good a theory as anybody else, or as things come up. At least we got a chuckle out of this one instead of some of the doom and gloom on that. We got about a minute left in this segment. Wrap it up. Anything else you want to throw out there to the good folks?
I want to tell you, I just stopped by Napoli and Loma Linda, picked up dinner. We meet Casino the other night in San Bernardino Highland area, picked up dinner. Bobby and I have decided that it's going to be like 2 nights in and 1 night of carryout. And sometimes it'll be more carryout. Get out there and support the local businesses, even if it's just buying a Coke at a drive-thru or something. Get out there and support them because they're really the backbone of this country. We're okay. We're busy. We're servicing cars like no tomorrow. All 3 stores, and we appreciate everything everybody's doing and the folks who are coming in. I'm there every day. I worked all weekend. I haven't had a day off in probably 2 weeks since it started, and I'll be there again tomorrow. But the end of the day is support the local businesses, even if it's $5, because those add up and it helps everybody get out of this mess in the long run. And hopefully, when election time comes around, remember what went on. Remember presidentially, remember Congress, remember the Senate, and remember your local legislators, and vote what you think is right. But for God's sake, get out and vote.
Exactly, and as the old saying goes, united we stand, divided we fall. If we don't support each other in this, it's going to make a bad situation very, very much worse, and we don't want to see that happen. Thanks for being on, Cliff. We'll do it again next week. Sounds great. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye. You got it. Man, that's what I say. I mean, again, I want to put that out there because there's, two 180-degree opposite looks between Eddie George and Cliff Cummings from their worlds, from one to the other. But, they're all looking at this and like the same. And I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of people feeling that, but maybe they're a little bit hesitant of saying it because, people want to jump on them about this, that, and the other. But it's a reason why we have Cliff on and Eddie and Dr. Kelly Victory, Mark Moisier, and a lot of the people we have on to give you that perspective of that, not saying, necessarily we're 100% right on this stuff either, but you need that perspective of looking across of all the spectrums. Along, as Cliff said, go out to, all 3 stores are open, Toyota San Bernardino, Subaru San Bernardino and I-10 and that. In I-10 Toyota, let me get it out in Indio. And they're all open if you need service. We want to kick the tires on a new Toyota Supra or Tundra truck. Go over there and look at them. They'll have you styling in no time on that. I know a lot of you are concerned, but hey, you might just want to check them out when things look rosier. You might want to look in that direction. Have up some of the. I think we had those the businesses of the ones we had yesterday on that. We want to give them another plug again today of going out on our way out of that. But folks, just stay safe, stay calm. We'll get through this. You just keep the pressure, keep asking the pertinent questions on this stuff. Don't just necessarily take what's being said, no matter if it's Trump, Newsom, or whomever on that. Chili's, you can go out there, give them a call out there on at the Stone Ridge Center out there. Give them a call. They'll have your order ready. You can come up there and beep your horn. They'll bring it out to you. Have all the nice things of going out there. Yeah, your cars will not be crushed or melted as long as the guests and drivers stay in their cars. We will be right with you. Be patient. Everybody with that. Though, order the great things from Chili's. There's Mountain Mike's. He's there at Iris and LaSalle, right over in the Stater Brothers shopping center. Mention Stephanie's name, and you'll get 20% off your order. So call them in, same thing, and they'll give you, you can do delivery. They'll do deliveries or carry out for you. They're open. They also have locations in Menifee and Redlands on that. So give Mountain Mike's a call at 951. Flip that back up there. Thank you. 455-3900. And what's the last one? Oh, Cosmic Ice Cream. Same thing. Call them up. Order all the great fun treats that you can get from Cosmic Ice Cream on that. They'll get you hooked up on that. Again, as Cliff said, it's now more important than ever. Support our local small businesses any way you can, because they're definitely hurting right now. On that, and businesses for most people are down all around, so that's going to have a ripple effect going across that. We'll be back on Wicked Wednesday tomorrow on that. We'll give you all the stuff. Thanks to all the people that tuned in on our IE Newswire broadcast with Trump, Governor Cuomo, and Gavin Newsom. We had that. Like I said, we had over 13,000 viewers on our site on the Trump speech, over 700 comments on that. Absolutely fabulous. We'll give you the best and absolutely greatest coverage, and even coverage you won't get anywhere else, right here on IE Newswire Daily, not only on Facebook, but on this show live at 5. So be there. Tomorrow we'll see you on Wicked Wednesday.